Greetings, everyone, starting in a different way. By the support of many until last year, 2022, this year KDP seems to have made access to both collection Grimorio Gosha with 72 Kabbalistic demons, as Grimorium Verum Carp Nicrum, with hundreds of other names that mostly do not appear in the Gosha. However, as I wait for you to express the reason for this, it seems that I finally had an option and I executed it. In the case that Amazon has a worldwide and very fast reach for ebooks. My failure to show my content on KDP as an ebook was really my fault. So, answering the question of those who had asked me the reason, and I don't believe it is opportune for me to state their name, however, I believe that the best way to answer is through attitudes. So I finally made the acquisition of the 3 volumes of the Grimorio Gosha collection available by ebook at a very low price. Since Thursday the 5th of April 2023, I made it available the day before, but when I saw the mess that was left in the layout, I had to reformulate everything so that the layout of the ebook is cool in the 3 volumes, as there is interest from you to acquire the 3 volumes. Then it will be a message that you will give me that it is also interesting to do this with the Grimorium Verum Carp Nicrum collection. I hope you understand the importance of you communicating with me so that I can know what happens to forbid you buy my book, so that I can try to help you and try to facilitate your acquisition of them. Incidentally, sales abroad increase a lot every day, especially of printed books in the site in United States, which offer the same advantages, much cheaper to buy than printed books on Amazon site in Brazil. I have already explained that Amazon do Brazil has a serious error that they are not equal values when buying on the Amazon website in the United States, when there it is much cheaper, despite the shipping being expensive, and very efficient demonology in the collections already mentioned and are worth pity, reminding them that the practice of the left hand that I explore in my works is results-oriented, not a submissive reverence to demons, unconcerned with results, like it or not. Demonologists who live worshipping demons do the same thing that those who eliminated magic practitioners have done for centuries, but in reverence for different deities. Are they gods? Are they ETs? Are they superhumans? Whatever they are. It doesn't matter for whom you work for results with the activities the book show you how to guide them, but the activities are for the realization of your will. For those who revere them in religions, it's another story. As people who practice magic are only accepted there when they fit the prerequisites of religions, regardless of giving fully effective results. Buying an ebook is very cheap. It was quite large as an ebook, but cheap, and they received the huge volume of each of the 3 volumes without shipping costs, which they have rightly complained about as it is a little high in some cases, remembering. Although it seems that we authors do not earn anything by lending to you, the more people rent to read electronic books, understand that it is your reading that pays us. Of course, if you rent it and return it without reading the work, neither you read it, nor we authors earn anything. As I now offer works converted to electronic books exclusively through KDP, it is through Amazon that you will get my works and those of many other authors, who also offer you access through the same system, paying only a fixed monthly fee. Available for you to borrow these books electronics in the Kindle Unlimited model, and you can keep them in your Kindle reader until they return it, as they do with other works by other authors, whatever their theme. Thus, before buying electronic or printed books from me or other authors, they will be able to get to know the material, read it for later. If they like it, then they buy it. And the good thing is that Kindle Unlimited only has a limit to put 20 electronic books in your account, but infinite when you return one and borrow another. Of course, you can exchange this for new books by paying the current monthly fee. The month is over. They pay a new month and acquire another month of term to borrow new electronic books. Remember, the monthly fee is for borrowing new electronic books, when they can take as long as it takes to read an electronic book without forcing them to return them, even if the last monthly fee you paid ceases to be in effect. Now to get even more excited, I got a really cool site to make audiobooks with great quality, but with voices in English. I tried it by making my last video in English with tonality and a digital voice telling a story, and I loved it. In Portuguese, I'll try to do it myself like in this video, but I need to know if you're interested. So I'm already trying to make smaller unpublished ebooks in audiobooks, Comment below if you are interested in purchasing audiobooks on guidelines for operating with the demons of the collections. Please. But let's go. This video is a bit long to further extend the usefulness of the origins of this pathworking, and my own book. This name is important and was addressed both in Magic, with the Holy Guardian Angel of Abramelin, the Midge, and in Lucifer and Hidden Demons duly categorized by Theodore Rose, and my ebook Abramelin's Pathworking Magic. This is very important to delve into because it is one of the doors for the practitioner to assume for himself all his advances. So declare than just aesthetic, in a parallel to academic study, it is like a student of master's degree that needs to go deeper under its practical theses, while the knowledge of even university students who address the same topic is nothing more than theoretical. Or in politics it is like a campaign of a politician who does not speak lies. But this truth is a perspective much more painful than would be its implied language, mainly in moments of warlike conflicts. In a simple summary, this code name 5.11 is the truth that we do not know because of our inability to understand it, but that the comfort of this ignorance is given to us by we be too lazy to look for the answers. So, beforehand, I already explained that it is an award that determines great advances for the practitioner from these events onwards. So a detail that I do not mention in the book is that, without despising anyone's knowledge of magic, it is suggested that you deal with it when you either already know a little in order to be able to practice the subject that you will deal with safely, or that you have the patience and dedication to be able to continue in this necessary study for your proper orientation in any matter you deal with. However, from the moment that you have already established your basic and effective practices with which you carry out your activities, you will be able to open the doors of these mysteries to which you will guard the secrets obtained with extreme caution. So here and now I offer a new activity for those who need to open or have already opened the doors to talk to all manifestations of their divine world, or their God, and now need to apply this knowledge in their lives. It follows as an exclusive expansion of the electronic or printed book on pathworking for the Abramelin pattern, both today in Portuguese, Spanish and English. This new unique activity is for you to enjoy even more the practical material of the pathworking that you have already acquired, according to the proposal of the electronic book here at
Chaos Magic Time.
Let's get to today's topic about the demon handled in the 5.11 code. In today's activity, the objective of this pathworking option has a kind of practical secrecy, more than symbolic, that it is not possible for me to describe it. Given the many possibilities that you can do and create in pathworking, in the objective term of secrecy treated here, it is more than the pictorial representation of an objective, but like the surprise of a party that, when the person who will benefit or be honored learns of the secret, he will lose the grace of the surprise, and in the case of the secrecy will lose not only its grace, but mainly its power to influence the occult subject of common knowledge. It would be like a university professor of medicine to his students, who creates a gymkhana to address the treatment of evils in various stages that can even progress to cancer, and divide into all names of activities to be chosen and used. In this case, students can have fun playing, when in fact the interaction dynamics between them in unfamiliar activities is fundamental, so that they can simultaneously understand and absorb the various alternatives, even little considered by academics. When humans already know what's going to happen, we adopt a growing habit of, instead of adopting the unexpected to improve our absorption of past content, we generally take what little we already know as a basis to denigrate the content in the famous and childish I already know rhetoric. So in this medicinal case, when the person stops blocking his conscience to learn with the practice in the unknown, he opens himself to theoretically apply the knowledge in the virtual patience of his conscience, while he can memorize through the experience without victims, even to verify the results in his consciousness to correct what was visualized to generate catastrophe. On the contrary, if the tutor explains himself beforehand, it greatly impairs the success of this activity. In a very objective summary of the circumstances, this pathworking is essentially important, especially when the person has achieved a leadership position, far beyond what the fantasy in some movies and books focus exclusively on the role of leadership symbolizing a person commanding a group. Any and all leadership necessarily starts from the person about himself or herself. It is useless for a person to command a group without commanding himself. Thus, the leader completely submissive to his weaknesses, his addictions, will be easily manipulated by someone who knows his vulnerabilities, whether within the group for those who want to steal leadership or want to use it as a puppet for their personal purposes, or the person or competing group in search of exclusion from their team. By making their weaknesses and vulnerabilities public, they automatically sabotage themselves. Therefore, only when you know how to keep the secrets of leadership to yourself can you succeed in any challenge you face without or with more people under your tutelage. Many academic people repeat the same cloning of attitudes that great philosophers did before. When compatible with their times, they were the basis for many teachings. But the repetition of errors that philosophies carry in themselves are no longer totally compatible with modernity, and will naturally bring the same old failure. The socialist philosophy, fattening the state with rights and duties, proved to be corrupt in collusion with the freedom and legality of dictatorships, just as, on the other hand, the free market opens up a huge space for criminals based on free competition, let alone people with criminal purposes manage the laws.
So what's the name of this activity today?
This new activity, that I will pass on to you so that we can deal with the inherent secrets of any evolution in the personal path, is unprecedented in the ebook and in the book Mago Pathworking Abramelin that I named as Leadership Secrets. Note that this pathworking today is recommended by those who already practice the pathworking, aware and experienced of this method already for application when you evolve in your personal development. However, repeating the prerequisite when you start your activities, at least in this sense, you will hardly have any benefit when you do not understand how important it is to keep to yourself the secrets and demands that leadership demands of you.
For what purpose? How it works?
Here secrecy was a peculiarity of sigils that will be more prominent than the sigil itself. The purpose of this highlight is a natural consequence in the vast majority of organizations, doomed to errors or vulnerabilities that need to be hidden from common knowledge. To protect the group as if it only represented its qualities, understand that it starts when you, like any wise person who knows your weaknesses, keep them to yourself, so the people who compete with you, whatever the competition, don't use your weaknesses to knock you down or nullify you, so you can use your qualities or advantages to your benefit. How it works is simple. The longer and more people keep the secrets for only the people involved in your team, the lower the chances of defeat due to personal flaws. As in any competition, a person or a team can lose due to the superior qualities of those who compete with these people, or it can also lose due to personal flaws. So it's easy to understand why personal flaws or weaknesses are usually hidden, and the pathworking with the 5.11 code demon is for this purpose, to hide flaws and highlight their strengths, just as it works in movie fantasy, when details are hidden showing the weakness of the characters in certain documentaries. When the qualities of any company or product are explored, inherent weaknesses or flaws are fatally hidden in secrecy.
How will this path working create a means for me to keep confidential what cannot be disclosed?
This question in this pathworking will not have a single answer other than the practice itself. This is because each circumstance and each problem in itself requires a peculiar attitude, so that secrecy are kept as they are. As an example, presidents who, when campaigning, can be of a much more charismatic profile, but the secrets that the office is responsible for inevitably force many of the secrets to be kept confidential from the beginning to the end of their lives. This question in this pathworking will not have a simple example is how secrecy and secrets are so important also for crime was that famous political campaign for the distribution of water from the São Francisco River in Brazil that in 3 terms did not conclude and only diverted resources for the work for decades. So the president who didn't use this promise in his campaign finished the works, for causes and purposes that are kept under lock and key. Local feuds under the command of the criminal in the actual presidency stopped all water distribution in the area. Now do you understand that secrecy and sigil can be used both for the good of the people involved, and at the same time for evil? But fatally and in advance with this pathworking, you can study the circumstances where you are involved to know in advance what are the possibilities of delicate unforeseen events that require your secrecy and sigil, avoiding the greatest amount of losses and later problems. Of course, this pathworking is in absolute secrecy and sigil. This is because they are state secrets, and if they leak to public knowledge, an entire nation could be in danger. despite excluding cases such as the current presidency of Brazil, when one or another criminal comes to power and only manages it for their own interests, instead of the interests of the nation itself.
You placed extreme positions, when few people manage to lead crowds. But how did you talk about self-government? When is secrecy and sigil important?
Since we are born, each person develops particular qualities and defects, and this is natural in human beings. When we think we don't have defects, it's mainly because we don't want to see them or we don't know how to manage them. But there is no problem for the person to analyze the defects itself, so that the person can manage them in their favor. A very common characteristic to be attributed as a defect is people's greed for leadership, for prominence. On scales of values, usually common psychology separates levels where this is tolerable in a person, and levels where it becomes disgusting in the person. Yet even these extreme levels, when disgust about one's attitudes is reached, can be useful in peculiar circumstances. As an easily understandable example during calamities in which a leading person needs to manage a crowd lost in the course, and models of attitudes to be taken in the face of a little-known catastrophe, or in an unknown situation. And that person in this particular case, in which he knows the circumstances to manage them and knows how to manage his thirst for personal leadership. He needs to take supreme authority for knowing how to deal with the situation and reach the greatest possible success in his attitudes. So the extreme leadership posture, bordering on dictatorship, even if supposedly irrational, is necessary during collective despair. Consequently, the confidentiality of people with these extreme profiles will be based on these emergency situations that require precisely these characteristics. The comfort or discomfort in the attitudes that such a person will take when taking a command role is precisely the purposeful, which this pathworking serves mainly for the person to know himself, and also to train himself to deal with his weaknesses by hiding them in undesirable moments, to be used appropriately at appropriate times.
To what you exposed secrets and sigils go far beyond politics. When I get into a situation where there are secrets and sigils that compromise me, whether I like the situation or not, and even if they are not secrets and secrecy involving crimes, can this pathworking help me in anything?
Since the 1950s, the implementation of white and black, right and wrong, left and right in mainly Western societies has spread throughout the world, implanting this dual ideology more strongly so that we can evaluate things. But the decadent venomous education now shows the shitty result in Brazil, when we see that things are not what they show us, hiding the reality of facts in secrets and secrecy. Even in Brazilian history, as the writer and historian Eduardo Pinheiro skillfully does in his writings. Then we opened our eyes and saw that all the dirt of this duality was swept under the rug in the sigils and secrets that restricted the notion of reality to many people who still believe in the false promises of a perfect world that art pretends to exist. Or it pretends to be a dream of an aspiration that people thirsty for dreams attributed them as a reality.
I mean, a perfect world only on canvases, when behind them hides the reality that we were painted in black and white. In fact, it has several varieties of colors. As an example precisely related to education, the ideal of molding popular education through TV stations, as suggested by George Orwell in his work, 1984, was never implemented to improve common knowledge by questioning the different shades that these colors of reality took, but precisely the explicit standardization to hide secretive or secret dictatorial purposes of reducing or even eliminating the questioning about what would be the truth transmitted in this type of educational station. Certainly, a totalitarian state, which forces its people to swallow a single and absolute truth, is much easier to manage than a people that tries to correct its faults. As a result of this disgrace of Brazilian education, the only education that the tutors left us is a series of films on TikTok teaching how boys and girls should behave in this circus of lies, hiding secrets and secrecy. So, returning to the answer to the question. This pathworking will only be able to be useful to you when you are already experienced in magic, especially about pathworking. You know where you got involved, you know at least some options for attitudes to take, and you accept to decide for yourself, take the relevant actions, including the actions of shutting up definitively in your own sigils and secrets.
But what if I want to isolate myself from all these schemes of reality, where I just do my job and the serious things that happen are always far away, so that my name is never burned in these circumstances? What will be the use of this pathworking?
Of course, there will always be people called absent, who always try to get away from confusion as much as possible. However, that wonderful economic Brazil of the 70s, where there were opportunities for all people of all profiles who really wanted to apply their efforts to something productive, no longer exists, and technical specialization increasingly selects people for formal society. Even because Brazilian university education is also decadent, increasingly training professionals unable to deal with the updates that the positions require. Even because automation and artificial intelligence has changed and completely changes current professional staff, when more and more professions are being extinguished every day, for new types of technicians to replace their positions. After all, this is cheaper for companies. Thus, in the same way as I said in past videos that if the person does not evolve with the world opening up new opportunities for ourselves, the development of machines will take our place and the people will be forgotten by history, even alive. I highlighted for history, not for our life to be destined for collective recognition, but for our disregard for personal evolution to be like a tractor of the reality that passes over us. Thus, when knowing how to use pathworking with a good personal experience, dealing with this pathworking in particular is very useful for you to discover new fields of personal action, so that the tractor of reality does not turn you into asphalt. That's it, folks. Further details of this important pathworking, only practice will give you answers, but as I said from the beginning, it requires your maturity so that you can deal with secrets and personal secrecy that breaking them can compromise all your future results. So the 5.11 code demon is meant to bring you possible answers that you want to know so much to tread your particular future. As you are the one who defines how and where you need to develop in any option that this pathworking opens your eyes to. For you to reach success you need to practice as much as you can. This video wasn't that long. But anyway, who can help me mainly here in Brazil or in other Portuguese-speaking countries by acquiring the digitalized ebooks of the Grimoire Goetia collection? To operate with the 72 demons of Goetia, or abroad by also acquiring ritual booklets, when they are notebooks in a pocket size with blank or lined pages related to Goetia for you to keep writings exclusively to magic, while at the same time, the portal to pathworking is on the cover itself. Thus already offering resources for your activities in this pattern. Just look for Notebook and Tesla de Murbox, these pocket books, each on the cover with the sigil of one of the 72 demons of Goetia. So thank you for your presence and I wish you a great week. Hugs. We